It's time, once again, for your favorite pro wrestling opinion show, Jags Jabs. I am Jefferson Alonzo Greene, and today, I'm not jabbing. Today, I'm celebrating, but I'm also going to ask a question. Today, I'm challenging you, the viewer, to understand and to help me interpret what exactly this means for pro wrestling. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Bobby freaking Lashley becoming the world's heavyweight champion in the biggest professional wrestling / sports entertainment company promotion in the world. Now, you might not think this is a big deal, but this is a huge deal, and the Jag, I'm gonna tell you why. Bobby Lashley winning the world's heavyweight championship in the WWE, the biggest and best promotion in the land, is not a huge deal just because he's black. It's not a huge deal just because it brings in the potential Brock Lesnar feud and Brock Lesnar match that we've all been wanting for years. I saw Brock trending on Twitter last night, so it's not just me that wants it. You want it too, but not because he's black, not because of Brock Lesnar, not just because, but because it brings simulated combat back to pro wrestling / sports entertainment. What do I mean by simulated combat? Let me explain. From the very beginning, pro wrestling evolved from catch wrestling, from shoot fighting, from collegiate and amateur wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, boxing. This was the core and the foundation of professional wrestling, and it evolved into something today, or maybe devolved is a better term, into something today that doesn't even really resemble combat or fighting. When I say simulated combat, what I mean is we're supposed to think, believe, or see this as a fight, as an athletic contest between two individuals that want to either hurt or at the very least get the best of the other guy. It doesn't feel like that most days now. When you're watching AEW, when you're watching some of the indies, it sure as hell doesn't feel, hell, when you're watching WWE, it doesn't feel like a competition between two badasses. It doesn't feel like a fight or a battle between two guys who legit want to hurt each other or tap the other guy out, or at the very least, pin their shoulders to the mat for a couple of seconds so that they can win and be the baddest dude in the yard. It used to be punches and holds and slams and then, you know, maybe something dramatic to finish the guy off, like put him in a front face lock and bashing his head into the freaking mat, DDT, right? Or it could be something even more dramatic when you bring some martial arts into it, and it's a shuffle side kick, a big side kick, side thrusting kick to the side of the head and knocking the guy unconscious. Sweet chin music. But those things aren't finishers anymore. Those are just transition moves. A DDT or a super kick is it's like a wrist lock or a hammer lock, right? This isn't a side headlock. These are just generic things that just happen nowadays. So we've lost the simulated combat aspect of it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch this video above my head where me and the homeboy OC Steve talked about Ring of Honor Pure Wrestling and how it's so much better than what we see in most wrestling nowadays because the combat aspect of it is lost. Now, we all know that pro wrestling is predetermined, and even though we all know this, we still want to believe. We want to believe this is a fight. We want to believe it's a shoot. We want to believe that there's some real animosity here. Why? Because it's human nature. You've heard the term, if you haven't, allow me to enlighten you, survival of the fittest. People, we want to be the strongest. We want to be the fastest. We want to be the best. And if you can't be the best, you want to be your best. I can walk into any gym in America, any CrossFit box, and say, hey, if I show you a certain technique, you can increase your bench press by 20 pounds. Do you want to learn it? And every single person's going to say yes. Why? Because they want to be the best. They want to lift the most weight. They want to be faster. They want to get a new PR, personal best, personal record. That's human nature. We want to be the best. And if you can't be the best in the world, you want to be your best or the best version of yourself. But here's the thing. Even if you are not the best, even if you are simply your best, you still want to know who the best is. That's why we have the Olympics. That's why we have the World's Strongest Man, the Arnold Classic, Mr. Olympia, the UFC, boxing, all these things. Look, I'm not a runner. Okay, I'm pretty damn far from it. I sure as hell ain't a swimmer, okay? But every 4 years, I turn on my TV and I watch the Olympics to see who the fastest sprinter, who the fastest swimmer. And I mean, just think about the Olympics. Everything about the Olympics is geared toward, well, not everything, but I'd say most things are geared toward survival or combat kind of sports. Wrestling, judo, now karate, taekwondo, boxing, fencing, archery, shooting. These things are competitions that we all used to do or at one point did, and we see value in, and we want to be the best. But since we can't be the best, we want to know who the hell the best is. Another example. Remember back when you were in junior high or back in high school, and all of a sudden a bunch of people would start running one direction and you didn't know what the hell was going on, so you looked to see what all the commotion is? You know what you were looking for? Fight. And you know when people would yell, fight, 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 and everyone would come running because you wanted to see who was fighting. It didn't matter if it was 2 girls, 2 guys, it could be 4 guys fighting, it doesn't freaking matter. If there was a fight, you wanted to see it. Why? Because you wanted to see who was the best. And you know what you said after the fight was over? Man, he should have jabbed. He should have bobbed instead of weaved. Man, he should have done this. I would have done this. I'd have done this to him. I'd have dunked it, right? That's what we say. We watch people do something competitive, something athletic, or something that's, I don't know, ingrained into our survival, and we want to see who the best is or who's best at it, and then we compare ourselves to that person. That's the whole reason why this Bobby Lashley thing is great. Let me explain why. What's more exciting? 2 behemoths facing off in the center of the ring. 2 big, strong, cut up, defined, just rough and tough looking dudes getting ready to fight each other, or Marco Stunt versus Rey Mysterio Jr. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to talk trash on Rey Mysterio Jr. I think he's fan-freaking-tastic, but we like to see the big guys fight. That's why heavyweight fighters always made the most money. That's why heavyweight fighters drew the biggest crowd. That's why heavyweight boxing was the biggest attraction for years and years. And even now, when you got Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather and so on and so forth, heavyweights in the UFC draw more attention than the lighter weights. Derek Lewis, I talked about him in the Steve video. There are people out there that when the big guys square off and want to fight, everybody pays attention. Why? Same thing. Survival of the fittest. We want to know who the best is. That's the very same reason why they're bringing Shaq into AEW right now. That's the very reason why they just signed the Big Show, aka Paul White, to AEW right now. The big guys bring the most attention, and the big guys are the ones that make us go, damn, I wonder who can beat that guy. Damn, look how that guy looks. I wonder who's going to beat him. Shaq, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor. All these people talk about professional wrestling. Ronda Rousey, right? All these people talk about professional wrestling because they want to see who the baddest guy is, until Vince will bring in one of the baddest people on the planet, Mike Tyson, and put him into an angle, and so people can see one of the baddest or the formerly baddest dude on the planet in line with their guys and equate that they are all badasses. People, this isn't new. This is old. The idea of having a legit fighter as your pro wrestling champion is as old as the hills. And Bobby freaking Lashley is a legit fighter. Now, you guys know I talk a lot of trash on AEW because I don't like their booking, I don't like their product. But let's just face facts. This is not an opinion, this is fact. Bobby Lashley. Imagine him, see him in your head. Maybe I'll put him on the screen. Brock Lesnar. Actually, let's take Brock out of the equation. Roman Reigns, the other champion, who just lost. Drew McIntyre. All right, think of those guys in your head. And now, think of old and tubby Chris Jericho. Jon Moxley. Kenny Omega. Do you think for one freaking second that Kenny Omega would last a round in a shoot MMA fight against Bobby Lashley or Brock Lesnar? Do you think Kenny Omega would last one single solitary round in a fight, a shoot fight against Drew freaking McIntyre? Do you think that old tubby Jericho would? Do you think Jon Moxley, the innovator of violence or whatever he's calling himself, I think that might have been Tommy Dreamer, Mr. Violence, Mr. Exploding Barbed Wire Deathmatch. Do you think Jon Moxley stands a snowball's chance in hell in the ring against somebody like Bobby Lashley? In the ring against somebody like Brock Lesnar or Drew McIntyre or even Roman Reigns? Not for a second. Now that doesn't mean you can't do good storytelling. Think about Kofi Kingston. Okay, when he had his quest to become the champion, and everything he did, it was properly booked, was about resilience. He kept getting up. He deserved this and he fought for it. Daniel Bryan, same thing. I've been here for years. I'm going to get this. This is mine. I deserve it. And I'm going to keep getting up. You hit me, I'm going to get up. It's the Rocky story, okay? So Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan, whatever, those guys were kind of underdogs who were resilient, and their resiliency helped them to get a title shot or to become champion. But are they booking Jericho as a resilient guy? Are they booking Moxley as a resilient guy? And even if you took Kofi Kingston and put him up against Chris Jericho and said, you guys are going to have a shoot, a bar fight, who's your money on? You take Daniel Bryan, put him up against Jon Moxley, and you say, okay, you guys are going to have a shoot fight. Who's your money on? This isn't a trash AEW. I don't know who the champion is in Ring of Honor. I know Gresham is the pure champion, and he's a little dude, but he also knows a lot of good, legit holds. So, I mean, jiu-jitsu guy versus striker guy, I mean, that's as old as the day is long. So, look, I challenge you to name one person, two people, three people from AEW that you could imagine standing across the ring from Bobby Lashley and thinking they have a chance. Name three people. You know, I'll do it. Lance Archer, maybe because he's 6'8" or whatever. Brian Cage because he's built like a freaking brick you-know-what house, right? Kind of Jake Hager, but Jake Hager is trash in MMA. I'll tell him to his face he's trash. Bobby Lashley has 10 times the MMA credibility that Jake Hager does. That's it, man. I mean, really think about it. Who's big? Luchasaurus? Not really. I mean, Big Show? He's 50, right? The eye test is very important to pro wrestling. I want to look at the guy and say, damn, that guy looks like a monster. He looks like a beast. He looks like a guy that can whoop that ass. And Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, they all kind of fit that bill. But who in AEW fits that bill? Bobby Lashley winning is great because his look, his legit fighting ability, his attitude and everything about him screams badass. And as a result, we imagine and we want to know who in the freaking world could be badass enough, tough enough, strong enough to beat that guy. And that to me is the beauty of having somebody like Bobby Lashley as the world's heavyweight champion. Having someone like that makes you automatically sit up and take notice and go, that's the guy? Who's gonna beat that guy? That's going to do it for today's episode of Jags Jabs. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Use the hashtag prove the Jag wrong, or whatever you want to say. Just let me know. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at AKA The Jag. Follow the show at MakeMeAFan316, and I will see you next time. Take care.